The owner equity is 80,000. So how can we get the assets? The missing figure is the assets. So our answer is 100,000. How can we get this answer? I will see the assets equal liability plus the owner equity. Let us apply this equation. The liability, I have it, is 20,000 plus the owner equity that I have it, which is 80,000. Then the assets will be 100,000 as we see in our answer. Next, if the owner equity is 6,000 and the assets is 10,000, what about the liability? If I want to get the liability, how can I apply this equation? It will be assets minus the owner equity. My answer is 4,000. How can I get this figure? I have the assets of 10,000. I will subtract the owner equity from it, which is 6,000. So I will get liability of 4,000. Then, my dear student, let us take a look about our equation and explain it in more details. I have the assets. It will be equal to the liability plus the owner equity. But in the owner equity side, I have two parts. The first part will increase the owner equity of the company, and the other part will decrease the owner equity of the company. What's the account that will increase the owner equity, and what's the account that will decrease the owner equity? The account will increase the owner equity of the company as the capital and the revenue. And the account will decrease the owner equity of the capital will be the expense and the drawing. Now I will move to the analysis of the effect of business and a transaction on the accounting equation. In our activity, I have a transaction, and each transaction, it will affect some accounts. Let's take a look about our transaction. The first transaction is investment by the owner. If I want to invest, what the type of account will affect? I should notice that in each transaction, as a minimum, 2 accounts will affect. It can be more than 2 accounts, but cannot be less than 2 accounts. So, the first one, Amna invests 10,000 BD for a cash in the business. Let us see the key word in our transaction. Invest and cash. What it means? The invest, if I invest, so my owner equity will increase, and specifically will increase in the capital account. What type of investment I do it? I invest in the cash, and I know the cash is an example of an asset. So the assets account for my company will increase. If I want to show this transaction in the table I have it, I will come to the assets part under cash account, and it will be increased by 10,000 that I have invested. So I will enter here in transaction number 1, 10,000, and I will put a plus sign because show that my cash is increased. Then the invested, I say that it will increase the capital of the company. So I will move to the owner equity section under the capital account, and I will put 10,000, and also I will put the sign of the plus to show that the capital of the company is increased. This is for the first transaction. Moving to the second transaction, Amna invests 5,000 BD for equipment in the business. the key word for me, the equipment and also the investment. Invest, I know that it will increase the capital of my company. The equipment is a type of an asset. So my asset section will increase under the equipment section. Returning back to our schedule, in transaction number 2, I will come to the section of assets under the equipment account. And I will increase it by 5,000. And I should add the sign of plus to show that the account in equipment will increase. The effect of investment will affect on the capital of the company. So I will move to the owner equity under the capital section and I will increase it in transaction number 2 by 5,000. And be careful, you should put the sign of a plus to show that the account will increase. After I finish the transaction 1 and transaction 2, I should do the balance after this two transactions. I will make the balance for all the accounts I have it in each section. Coming to the section of account, under the account of cash, only I have in transaction 1, the 10,000. In transaction 2, I don't have anything, so the balance will be 10,000. In the account receivable, there is nothing. Moving to the equipment, in the transaction number 2, I have 5,000. I don't have any transaction before, so the total or the balance will be 5,000. Moving to the other account, I don't have any transaction related to machine and account payable in the liability section. Shifting to the section of owner's equity, under the capital, I start in the transaction 1 with 10,000 and then moving to the second transaction and my account increase by 5,000. So at the end, I reach 15,000. 10,000 plus the 5,000. It will be the total. In the owner equity section, the total will be 15,000 because I don't have other figure in this section. And shifting to the assets, I will take the total of cash plus the total of equipment. The other account, there is no figure on it. And I will get the 15,000. Applying to my figure, to my equation, the assets should be equal, the total of liability and the owner equity. In the asset section, the total is 15,000. On the liability, I don't have, it will be 0. And in the owner equity, it's 15,000. So the total will be equal between assets and liability plus owner equity. Moving to the next activity, the effect will be on the purchase of assets. Let us take an example in the transaction we have it. Amna purchased equipment for a cash by 3,000. Let us check the keyword in our transaction. Purchase equipment. So the equipment in our company will increase. And also I pay for this equipment by cash. So the cash for me or for my company will decrease. The effect on this transaction, the equipment is an asset and the cash also is an asset. So if the equipment, it will increase. So let us see it on our schedule. Moving to the transaction 3. Now let us see the effect on the equipment in our schedule. Going to the asset section and going to the equipment account, I will increase it by 3,000 because I purchase more equipment in my company. When I purchase this equipment, I pay it by cash. So my cash will decrease. Coming to the transaction 3, cash account, I will decrease it by 3,000. Shifting to the fourth transaction, Amna purchase machine for 4,000 on credit from Jamal establishment. If I buy a machine, so the machine for my company will increase, and on a credit, so I know that I didn't pay for this machine. So this will be a liability to my company. Showing this transaction in the table, going to the transaction 4, the machine in my company will increase. Going to the machine account under the assets section, and it will be increased by 4,000. Shifting to the liability of my company, it will increase by 4,000. Why it's increased the liability? Because I didn't pay the price or the cost of this machine. Moving to the last transaction in this part, Amna paid to creditor Jamal establishment for PD 1,500. Before, in transaction 4, I have a liability of 4,000. In transaction 5, I pay part of this liability. If it paid, so the cash for me will decrease. So I will come to the asset section under the cash for transaction 5, and I will decrease the cash by 1,500. Then if I pay the liability that I have it, so the liability for me will decrease, and because that I come to the liability section under the account payable, and I decrease it by 1,500. Finally, as I know I should find the balance for all the transaction, I do it to keep the assets equal the liability plus owner equity. Moving to the third transaction or the third effect, providing or perform a service. Let us take an example. Amna perform repair service to a customer for a cash. When I perform a service, I will get a revenue. So the revenue for my company will increase. Coming to the sixth transaction, if the revenue for my company will increase, I will come to the owner equity section under the revenue section, and I will increase it by 2,000. Then, does I receive this amount of a transaction? Yes, I receive this amount. So if I receive it, then the cash in my company will increase. So I will come here and increase it by 2,000. Moving to the second transaction.